Hi, this is Andy Scarborough with Crownworks. Today we're going to talk a little bit about the art of asking and why that's so hard. Growing up in the South, decorum was a big part of life, and the last thing you ever wanted to be was an imposition. And sometimes that meant not asking for what you want. I mean, I remember a time being at a friend's house and I would have died of dehydration before I asked her mother for a glass of water because I really just didn't want to put anybody out. There was something that I sort of free associated with being a lady or being polite with not having needs. And it certainly wasn't my family's influence. My mother was a super strong, outspoken woman, but there was some conflict that I had in myself between the idea of being polite and that I also knew that closed mouths don't get fed. For a hairdresser, this can show up in some really problematic ways. A lot of times the only way we're going to get new clients is by asking for referrals or for asking for positive reviews. Most of the reason we don't ask is because we don't want to be told no. And like me as a little girl visiting my friend, there's no way that her mom would have told me, no, you can't have a glass of water. But there was something really vulnerable about putting myself out there in a way that stated what I needed. And what I realize now as an adult, even if it's just asking my client for a referral, that there's somehow this association between stating what I need with being needy or having a weakness or some sort of perceived like vulnerability. When in truth, as I've talked about in my other videos, the vulnerability is really what breeds intimacy. And so one of the biggest compliments we know through every business training that we have is to ask our client for more clients like them. You know, I've enjoyed you so much. I would love to have a whole day full of people like you. But that gets really hard. And I think that we don't ask for what we want. And one of them is just, you know, the fear of being told no, right? It's always a better fantasy to have to think that maybe if I ask, I'm sure that person would do that for me. But if I don't ask, then I never really have to find out, or I don't have to take the risk of being told no. And it's safer to live in that future perfect tense, right? If I ask them for a referral, then I'm sure I'll get one, but I'll ask them next time. You know, if I ask them for a positive review, then I'm sure I'll get one next time. Part of this goes back to that idea about approval addiction. So we really need to know that with our clients, we really are like the greatest thing since sliced bread. All day long we hear people talking to us about how phenomenal we are and how they can't live without us, and it gets to a point where if we don't get anything then a totally absolutely stellar response, then we're like Chicken Little and the sky is falling. So the idea of venturing out beyond the sort of safety of our regular standard praise programming feels really risky. And the idea of, in that moment, just asking someone for a positive review or, you know, a glass of water can be really threatening. So there are two ways that we ask for things. We either ask it as an offering or we ask it as an exchange. And when we're dealing with the subtext of approval addiction, we quite often are operating from that place of an exchange. You know, I will exchange whatever it is I'm asking for essentially love. And that approval addiction runs really deep. We've talked about it a little bit before in some of my other videos about why that keeps us from sharing our gifts, why that keeps us from being vulnerable. Like, it's really risky to be perceived as having a need or having a desire. That asking for a referral piece or asking for a positive review is just one of the pieces where this comes up. And I think professionally, especially for women, if it gets more and more difficult to ask for that, whether it's a promotion or you know, a closer parking spot if you are pregnant and don't want to walk across the parking lot. A lot of times our needs become seen as weaknesses. Part of the undoing for this in me has really been something I discovered on my spiritual journey, and that is just sort of reframing in my own mind the difference between a sort of a secret need and a sacred desire. Most of the time, though, when we don't ask for what we want, we're operating kind of out of a control disorder that I like to call, I do it my damn self. And there's a lot of victory in that, right? As if we get there on bended, scraped knees, we've gotten there somehow better or more officially or more certifiably. And I think that that can be a really limiting belief. The truth is that most people really want to help. It's human nature to want to assist another person, and it makes like the human body, the brain chemistry actually goes off when you know that you've made someone else happy. I mean, hello, why do you think we're all in this business? Here's the funny thing about what happens when we ask for what we want. Not only do we get the opportunity to receive it, but we also get the opportunity to give somebody else the kind of good feeling that we get when they're telling us how much they love their hair. We're also giving someone else an opportunity to be of service, and that feels really good. So now it's my turn to ask. If you've enjoyed what you've seen today or liked any of the Crownworks content on Instagram or here on YouTube, please subscribe, follow, and share. And also, I really want to hear from you about what other content you'd like to hear about. So comment below, find me on Instagram, crown_works on Instagram, #crownworks, and don't forget to hit subscribe. Till next time, crown on.